On today's episode of the SPEMA Council podcast, we had on Becca Hogan and Phil Giannini from Oilers Entertainment Group, both SPEMA alums, and it was the first time in a while when that we had two guests on the show this week, and it was an awesome episode for a variety of reasons. Becca elaborated on her internship experience with the IceDogs, her experience with Mezzanine Growth as a marketing lead. Phil elaborated on his experience with ADP Solutions before joining the Oilers. They also talked about group sales strategies that they use, how they've dealt with the many restrictions that have been placed on capacities, and they share some stories about their standout / favorite sales as well. It's a great episode for the content alone, but for the co-host as well, bringing it back to season 2 by bringing on a former podcast administrator and current vice president of SPEMA Council, Neville Medill, on the co-host. He was telling me, it was really nostalgic going on to the show. It's like a trip down memory lane, and he's been wanting to get on the show for a while, and it was really awesome to have him on to co-host this one, which I am sure that you guys will love. But for now, let's get right into this week's edition. We hope you enjoy, because this is the SPEMA Council podcast.
How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. You know what time it is. I invite you to pull up a chair, sit back and relax, and welcome you to yet another episode of the SPEMA Council podcast. It's the first week back from reading break, hard to believe, but I hope everyone had a great reading break. I hope everyone had a chance to relax a little and release some of the stresses that university brings to some of you, and hopefully you're nice and recharged and ready to roll for the final stretch of this term. We have an awesome episode on tap for you this week. It's a great interview filled with lots of insight Before we reveal those guests, let's introduce the co-host for this episode, making her podcast debut. Not a big deal. First year rep on SPEMA Council. She was previously on the first year roundtable a few episodes ago. Ruby Newman. Ruby, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No. It's great to have you on the show for sure. Quite the podcast debut for you as for a multiple amount of reasons. The first one is this is actually a 2 guest episode instead of the usual 1 guest episode. We haven't had 2 guests. We haven't had 2 guests in a while since probably the first year roundtable or the season finale. So it does add that different dynamic, which I hope you'll enjoy. But we had a great one today. We had Becca Hogan and Phil Giannini, both SPEMA grads, and both work as group sales account executives for Oilers Entertainment Group, which covers both the NHL's Edmonton Oilers and the Edmonton Oil Kings of the Western Hockey League. A lot of things to cover in that interview. But Ruby, what were some of your standout moments from that?
Yeah, I just found it really cool talking to SPEMA grads. Obviously, I'm in first year, so I kind of talk with fellow first years, a few people on council and upper years, but I haven't met very many alumni, so that was super neat. And I'm interested in sales possibly in the future. I'm not a huge hockey fan, but definitely might get into that more as things go on. So yeah, just their expertise, everything was super neat to listen to.
It was, and for a variety of reasons. They were able to touch on in Becca's case, internship experiences before joining the Oilers, and in Phil's case, actually in both their cases, some non-sport experiences, which helped them gain a lot of transferable skills that maybe most people don't realize when approaching roles that aren't in sport.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, super unique. It's nice to kind of get out of the sport industry back in, and realizing that they both wanted to stay within the sport industry after was pretty neat.
And another thing I'd like to add, I guess, is they had some great stories near the end with their favorite sales. Before I ask what your favorite was, man, I especially loved that when they got a big 120 ticket sale, and it was Colorado versus Edmonton. McDavid lit up the score sheet. Nathan McKinnon had a pair of goals, and the great thing is that the main point of emphasis was the happiness from those consumers, saying that they had a great time, that they want to come back, which is the epitome of sales. Misconception being that do we control the score on the on ice product? Unfortunately, no. But we can't control the fan experience and how people enjoy the game, regardless of what the needs are.
Yeah, for sure.
Before you know what? Look at I'm gonna be going on off a tangent here, and if I do that, I'm gonna spoil the entire thing. So before we go into the interview, Ruby, any final thoughts?
No, not really. Just super happy to have this experience. Very fun co-hosting. Hopefully I'll be able to do it again sometime soon. Yeah, thanks for letting me join you.
Not a problem. And with that, let's send over to our two guests, Becca Hogan and Phil Giannini, group sales account executives for Oilers Entertainment Group. Enjoy, folks. All right, for this week's edition of the SPIMA Council podcast, we've got a great guest lineup on tap, and more so because we've got two guests on this week. The first time we've done this since probably the last year's season finale. But regardless, this is shaping up to be a good one. Both of these guests are SPIMA grads, and they currently serve as group sales account executives for the Edmonton Oilers. Joining us now from Edmonton, Alberta, please welcome Phil Giannini and Becca Hogan. Thank you guys for joining the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. To go right into it, and into the de facto first word of the SPIMA Council podcast, Becca and Phil, what mindset have you adopted to forge a successful career?
Phil, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll go first. Personally, for me, what mindset I kind of adopted, work hard, play hard, definitely one of them. But I think in the sales role, I kind of learned that relationship building is really key, and you really can't close a sale without opening up a relationship. And that just helped me in my career now and definitely in the future.
Awesome. And then I'll hop in. Mine is definitely control what you can control. This year and last 2 years is definitely a testament to there's a lot of things out of your control. So it's still putting in the hard work and knowing that in the long run, everything is going to pay off and you'll see your success in the future. So just knowing that some things you just gotta let them go and not stress about them, knowing that better things are to come.
100%. And I mean, Becca, I'm gonna circle back to your point there of controlling what you can control. That's a thing that every student should probably be here, especially as we go into the summer months. And I mean, even from my perspectives, I try to search for a full-time role in the sport industry. The job search can be a real slog. And it can take a toll on your daily life, especially if you're coming up empty, or you have that interview and then it falls through. Most of the time, the things that you're asked to do, say it's a job application, are the only things you really can't control. Decision making, the interpretation of the application, as much as you try, you can't really control any of that stuff. You're just at the whim of who's making those decisions. So again, as hard as it may be, and this is just a personal thing for me, I just try to at least take it day by day, and try not to stress too much. Although I mean, the past few years have tested that quite a bit. To be completely fair, and I think everyone can agree on that.
100%.
Okay, so moving on, Becca, you graduated SPIMA in 2021, but before you graduated, you spent time with the Niagara IceDogs as a social media intern and with Mezzanine Growth as a marketing lead. What were some of the highlights and challenges in both of these roles, particularly Mezzanine, where you were creating and managing marketing campaigns?
Yeah, all right. So I'll start with the IceDogs. Is a little brief explanation of my role. I wrote pre and post game articles. I did social media during the games, whether it was Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And then I also attended some community events. And one of those community events was actually probably my highlight of being there. Is after the teddy bear toss game, I went with some of the players to deliver the stuffed animals to some kids at the local hospital.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was an experience to remember, that's for sure. We took so many photos and videos, and just to see the appreciation from all the families, and to see the kids actually being able to have something to smile about, and to then also have that stuffed animal to keep, it was just a really cool experience to be a part of. And then switching over to Mezzanine Growth. So I worked for a company called Calgary Green, which kind of branched off to Mezzanine Growth, which was, the home base was in Toronto. And then I also worked for Niagara Marketing. And it was definitely a learning experience coming out of university. It was a big kind of full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working from home. It was a little bit of a shock to the system, to say the least. And that's kind of where some of the challenges came from, just the professional aspect of it, of learning how to communicate from the remote work, or learning how to ask for help, or even just the learning scale of, you're in a true kind of marketing position, and you do learn a lot in school, but when it comes to the specifics of, I was doing SEO and so on, that you're truly learning how to do the job itself. But I guess if I was to point out one of my highlights from that job, I remember specifically in my interview, we kind of reviewed the job description, and it was a really long list, and the employer kind of asked how I felt about it. And I was pretty confident, but on the list, it had brought up website building, which I did not feel comfortable about at all. I'm not the best with technology. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. So I kind of said that and kind of brought it up, and they were kind of saying it was no worries. And then it ended up about a month into my position, they reached out and asked if I would actually kind of tackle a website build. And it was quite the experience, a lot of YouTube videos and learning, and it was quite the learning curve, but it's something I look back on, and I am so proud of myself for just kind of taking the opportunity to learn something new, and then seeing the final product was definitely one of my highlights of working there.
How about you two?
Pardon?
How about YouTube? Just a one-click search, and then boom,
I love
expert
it.
website development. It's great. I mean, you know, I do want to go back to your point about the ice dogs and working there. You know, you really see, you know, it helps when the team is good in the standings. What was the year that you were interning?
Yeah, it was actually a very interesting year. It would have been the 2019-2020 season.
Okay.
They started off very, very hot that season, had some really top level players in Akil Thomas and Ivan Lodnia and so on. And then the season kind of went a little rocky towards the end, and the rookies really had an opportunity to get some ice time and so on, so I kind of saw both sides of it. A lot of junior hockey is kind of that 4-year cycle, and we almost got that 4 years in 1 year. So it was a very interesting season, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, regardless of the results, and again, it does help if the team is doing well, but beyond results, you know, and I guess this is probably one of the biggest things I've noticed over my 4 years in St. Catharines. You get away from GTA, and you know, you have maybe one or two core sports teams in that area, and they really act as a community driver, if you will. You know, when you know, like on a good night, you're in downtown on Ice Dogs game day, a few hours to that puck drop, and there's that distinct buzz going around, and you know for a fact that the Ice Dogs are suiting up to play tonight, and you know that impact goes to different areas of the community, schools, hospitals, you name it, and you have these 16 to 20-year-old players making a monumental difference by just doing simple things like handing out toys that change lives. And if the big cities, the GTA, I don't think you'll really understand that until you move down and to see that in action. So that must have been a really great experience. I'm not surprised that you said it was one of your top experiences while working there. And I guess moving on to you, Phil, you're also a fellow SPIMA grad, and before the Oilers, you spent some time as a district manager at ADP, which is a company centered around HR management and payroll solutions. What are some of the key learnings you picked up from your time at ADP that you use for your success in your current role in Edmonton?
Yeah, and great question. But I actually worked at Oilers Entertainment Group, so OEG is what we call it here. It's the equivalent to like MLSE. So we work for both the Oilers. No worries. We work for the Oilers and the Oil Kings. Just want to throw the Oil Kings in there. The #1 top team in the country in the CHL right now. So I worked for them in the 2019 season up until 2020. Pandemic happened, and I moved back home to Ontario. And then that's when I started working for ADP. Great company. I definitely recommend it if anyone's looking for a job in kind of payroll. But the one thing I kind of learned from that job, even though my tenure was kind of short there, was just dealing with objections. I was selling payroll services to small businesses in Ontario during a pandemic, and some of these businesses were hair salons, nail salons. They weren't even open. So it was extremely difficult to kind of felt like the product is amazing. The payroll and HR software that ADP has is definitely top one. They're the top company at it. And even though you had the top kind of program to do it, it was still really difficult. So kind of just dealing with objections was something that I now use here in Edmonton, because I had to deal with objections this year. And one thing I still remember to this day is it's the PEP-C model. So it's probe, emphasize, present, and close. And that's what I use when I'm dealing with objections today. And I learned that at ADP. So yeah, that's basically it. The other thing too is that, I'll harp on it a lot, but relationship building. like relationship building is key. People don't buy from people they don't trust. That's it. That's period. So once you can get their trust, you can tell them again, and it makes it easier as a salesman. So, and then the last thing about ADP, on top of it being such a great company and everything, it really helped me realize that the sports industry is where I was most happiest, where I should be. And so it was really hard to move to Edmonton and back to Ontario, live through a pandemic, and then move back to Edmonton. But that kind of made me realize like sports industry, Oilers is where I should be at. So.
Yeah, it's and you make an interesting point about selling during a pandemic, and I found myself in a similar situation during that same time period, with my summer job. It was doing sales, customer service, and ecom for this patio furniture company in Mississauga. Nowhere near sports, but again, you have there's sort of that ethical line of how much do you sell, given that it's the early onset of the pandemic and people are really stingy with the disposable income, with a product that might set them back a few thousand dollars. But your point on relationship building, and beyond that, within building a relationship, being clear with the customer, being concise, being honest, even when you screwed up, which that's the hardest part. You're talking with the customer, you'll say your product's going to be ready, and a delay happens. You're now the first one at the fence to tell them the bad news. But most of the time, if you've been honest with them, and you haven't really sold them short, to be if you will, the outcome ends up being better than you expected. So that's definitely a great point that you made.
100% too, and like to kind of go off your point, it was like you got to put yourself in their shoes sometimes, and that could be when I was selling ADP during pandemic, when I'm selling to clients here. It's always about showing sympathy and empathy, and once you kind of do that, show the human side, humanize yourself, humanize them, and just makes the process a little easier. I'm sure you did that too at the company. What was it? Was it Dot?
No, it was a small business in Mississauga. It wasn't a chain.
Reppin' Saga City.
Very nice. Let's go.
Okay, so moving on, both of you are in the same sales group department with the Oilers. When approaching groups to sell them on the Edmonton Oilers experience, what strategies do you use to get them convinced enough to see a live game? Is it a set number of strategies, or does it depend on the specific group that you're dealing with?
I can start this one off, I guess, Phil. Okay.
Yeah, I just spoke. You go.
Okay, so just to clarify a little bit as well, is I kind of focus a little bit more on schools, and Phil's a little bit on the more not-for-profit side. So I think that'll kind of explain our answers a little bit.
Perfect.
Also hopping in though, I'm going to add on to Phil's points of relationship building. Definitely when you're going into any sale, the best way to start it off is to get to know the person, get to know what the group is looking for. Phil had mentioned we do sell for both brands, so Oilers and Oil Kings. So who knows, they might call and they're looking for an Oilers experience, but then you kind of dig a little bit deeper and the Oil Kings are actually a better fit. So it's just having that conversation with people and then kind of letting the conversation guide where you go from there.
Great answer, Becca. Definitely been trained well here. To kind of go off of that too, I always said it's about the wants and needs of the specific customer. So like for instance, in my role with not-for-profits, like I do a lot of fundraisers for the Oil Kings. So I have fundraisers and I have awareness programs that I have. So it's really about asking the right questions to find out what the organization or just what the group wants. And once you know what they want, it's kind of easy at that point, if you can deliver on that. I like to use kind of special nights to kind of aid in my sales. And I think for both of us and most people in the group sales department, it's experiences. So like, me and Becca Becca and I, proper English, Becca and I cannot control the on-ice product. Like, we don't 100%. Make any of those decisions, right? But we can control how the fan is at the game. And that is like how we kind of help them in the whole process, from the minute they call us to the minute we call them, to even past post game. And we like to give different experiences based on, if you hit a certain ticket commitment, or if your group's coming for a specific night. And this is for both brands too. We have like an Oilers Hall of Fame room that we use a lot for tours. That one's a really great one. We do an Oilers bench photo. There's a couple of ones that we do strictly for like hockey teams, where the hockey team can come play a game on Rogers Place Ice before the game. And just all of those things just add up to making the game even better. The Oilers and Oil Kings could lose 7-1, but there's still some kids that are going to have a great experience that they're going to remember forever. Obviously, when they win and they're winning, it makes it a little easier and it helps. But that's kind of what the strategy is always about, making sure that the customer is having a good time. It could be their first game. And that's how we like to look at it here. It's like a Walt Disney model, where it's like, it could be someone's first day at the park. So no matter what, you got to provide them that great service, great experience, and then let the rest kind of take over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you touched on a sort of a misconception about working in sports, where you don't actually control the on ice product, but you can control the fan experience. And the varied approach is great, because you might have some people who are hardcore hockey fans and care very deeply about seeing the best players play. On the other spectrum, you may have people who really couldn't care about the score, and are just here for some fun entertainment. Those are where the theme nights can come into play. And I think back to a networking event I was part of a few years ago, and it was at Tim Hortons Field with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and they were telling us that there's that, because there's so much going on, because they have a lot of things going on every game on their concourse. They may sell they may be sold out for a game of about 20 to 22,000 people, but only say 11 or 12 of those are in their seats, or even see a quarter of the game, while the rest are just enjoying the in-stadium amenities. So like you said, it really depends on what the consumer wants, and the best way that you can deliver to them to not only convince them to come back again, but to keep building that sales consumer relationship, as you said. And we touched on this, but restrictions have obviously made selling a extremely slippery slope for those that are in the business. How have both of you been able to adapt to the changing conditions, especially considering that some tickets can be affected by capacity limitations?
Me, Becca, or you?
I'll start this one again. Yeah, so obviously the whole world's been affected by COVID, specifically Canada. Each province looks a little bit different, but everyone's seen restrictions to different extents. So obviously both Oilers and Oil Kings are seeing those restrictions in place, and as they are provincial, people are expecting them. They're kind of everywhere you turn, but it definitely makes it look a little bit different in the arena, as some people choose to watch the game at home because it's more comfortable for them. But there are also those people who are super excited to still be coming out to the arena, as there was a point where the NHL was in a bubble and nobody's coming out to games. So it's really exciting to see those people start to filter back into the arena. And it's exciting to hear the excitement and see the excitement and see the seats start to be filled. It definitely does come up in conversations when you're talking to people, and it's definitely important to hear where people are coming from. But it seems like we're hopefully starting to get on the other side here, where having live sporting events is something that's going to stick around now. And it's just kind of putting out those experiences for people again and hoping people are coming out to the rink and making some memories.
You kind of hit the nail on the head right there, but it's a great question, especially in the world that we live in, and it's a tough question too. I think I want to go back to what Becca said earlier. It's like control what you control, right? That's something that's one of our philosophies here at OEG. Just, we can't control that, so we just whatever we can do to make sure that health and safety was at the forefront is what we were trying to do. How I always thought about it too was Tom Hanks has this philosophy. It's like, this too shall pass. And I always just thought, like, this too shall pass. This will change. We're actually now getting into restrictions changing a little bit here in Alberta. I know things are changing in Ontario as well, and I'm sure other provinces. I don't know how big your reach is, but yeah, the whole country. But that was pretty much it. Just like, sooner or later, it's not, we're going to have restrictions back. So just like, we got to wait for that, make sure we can control at the time. And that's pretty much it.
Your answers make it seem like the whole situation was handled with ease, but I can imagine behind the scenes is the restrictions loosen, then they tighten, then they loosen, then they tighten. It's this roller coaster that I've especially felt in Ontario. One minute we're in lockdown level restrictions, and in only a couple months everything seems to be lifted again. But again, just controlling what you can control. You can't control what the government imposes on business activity, just like you can't control the score. So ensuring that you're focusing on the things that you can do definitely helps you stay grounded. Definitely helps you stay grounded. And this goes out to the students too. What you can, if there's things that you can't control, try your best to not worry as much about them. But at the same time, if there are things that you can do in some situations, it's in your best interest. It's in your best interest to do to at least take a stab and do them, because it's better than sitting around and stressing out all day. If I'm being honest.
And another thing too, just on that, is just like, whether it's 50% capacity, 75, 25, 100, like we're here to provide that exceptional service and that experience that we kind of mentioned before. So it doesn't matter, obviously, 100% capacity is the best, but that's how we kind of thought about it too. Like, we've got to just still go and do our day-to-day job no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. And then this question is for both of you again. Is there a particular sale that stands out or serves as one of your favorites? And if so, why?
Phil, you can kick this one off.
I'll kick this one off. I did want to say one thing from kind of one of the strategies is we do also, showcase McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, they're easy to showcase as the best players in the world. And we also showcase like the beautiful Rogers Place Arena. And then lastly, I mentioned it, the Oil Kings are first. And like, we always like to say, hey, first in the country, not just first in WHL. But based on the question of the sale that kind of stands out, I'll give you two. One is Oilers. It was Whitefish Lake. I did 130 lower bowl seats to an Edmonton versus Colorado game. And it was like, McDavid scored a hat trick. McKinnon had 2 goals. Like, the whole entire game was amazing. Yeah, just like, imagine this being at an arena full capacity. This was in the 2019 season, which knowing that my clients were there, watching in the lower bowl, seeing McDavid shoot on the net that they were watching on 3 times, I just knew that they had an absolute amazing time. And then with that, I provided experiences, and now they came back next year. So it'll always be one of my favorite sales. And then on the Oil Kings side, it's not just one sale, but my favorite night in my baby is Boy Scouts night. So I do a Scouts night sleepover at the Oil Kings. We did the 10th annual one, and COVID happened. We did the 11th annual one the other day. And that's just my favorite one, just bringing all these Boy Scouts together and Girl Scouts as well, and just providing them an entire day of fun. And then for them to sleep over, which we didn't do this year, but like sleeping over in the past was something they loved. And this year we did like a fun skate on the rink. We had games rooms. We had a movie on the Jumbotron. So that one will forever be my favorite. I'm looking forward to the next year. So Becca, what were your favorite ones?
Well, now I have to pick 2 as well. Okay. So, okay, I'll start on the Oilers side as well. Mine actually just happened a couple nights ago, and it was Connor's Corner, sponsored by CCM, and it was for Kobe's kids. So it was
right. Nice.
Yes. It was honestly, it was such a great experience to be a part of. The game was initially actually supposed to be in December 20th. So it was, I think, 2 days after restrictions kicked into place again. So we moved it to the February 20th game. So everything ended up working out. It was my first Oilers sale that was actually over 100 tickets. So that was pretty cool. It was a really big event. But the best part is I was up there during the game, and to see the young kids and their families come in and they're wearing jerseys, and not only are the kids excited, but the parents are excited to attend the game as well. It just really hit home that some people will say it's just sport, but it really is a memorable experience for a family to come out, and something that they really appreciate and will remember for the rest of their lives. So to just play a little bit of a part in that, it's something I'll always remember. And then on the Oil King side, same thing. This one was actually just a couple days ago as well. We had our family day game, and part of my position is I book both national anthem and stage performances for Oil Kings games. And I had a young girl, she was only 10 years old, and she came out and sang the national anthem. And she crushed it. She was amazing. All of us were blown away. But just to see her step back off of the ice and her parents both hugging her and saying how proud they were of her, and just her smile, that was just the best feeling ever, to once again just be able to provide that experience for the family. And same thing, they emailed me the next day asking if they could have the video footage, and just it's something they're going to show to all their family and friends who couldn't attend the game, and she'll always look back and be able to say she sang in front of over 8,000 people. So that one also is going to stick with me.
Great stories, I tell you. I mean, that's the top moment of any sale, when you make it, they have a good time, and they reciprocate that right back to you. That must have felt awesome. I'm not sure if I could be that 10-year-old to belt out the national anthem in front of a NHL size rink that has a capacity of over 18,000. I'd probably just chuck the mic and get off the ice. But that sounds just like an awesome story. Same with the Boy Scouts too. Not too often you get to have a full day inside Rogers Place. So both really unique sales, and what's even better is that everyone seemed ecstatic after the fact. But as we draw this show to a close, and I want to thank the both of you for taking the time out of your evening to join us and share your career stories, insight, and advice. It is tradition around here at the SPEMA Council Podcast for the guests to have the last word, to say what's on their mind, maybe touch on things they may have missed, or use it as an excuse to shoot the breeze with us for a few minutes longer. So Becca and Phil, thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for reaching out and thinking of us. I always wanted to do this and showcase some of the skills. Becca, I don't know. Do you have anything to say? I have something to say. I don't know if it's more of an ending one.
Okay, then I'll just jump in and also say thank you. This was a really cool experience in itself. And yeah, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for putting this together for me and Phil. And we were excited to share our stories. That's it for me.
And yeah, I've always wanted to kind of say this to Brock students because I was a SEMA student and I didn't go to class a lot. And I'm not telling people to do this. I'm just saying this is my story. I wish I went to school more. I wish I did an internship. I think internships are key, but I just want to let people know, don't give up if you're having trouble finding a job post-grad. I was working at Walmart. I was working for a stats company making less than minimum wage. And then I ended up going to George Brown doing my post-grad in sport and event marketing. So there is things you can do after, just don't give up. And then if anyone has any questions, wants to add me on LinkedIn, ask any questions regarding the industry or just any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Becca and Phil, it's been Becca and Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.